Welcome back to Fusty Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Eleanor Harris had always believed in love, but her marriage to Henry Caldwell was built on illusions. From the very beginning, Henry never truly loved her. His heart belonged to another, Victoria Morgan. Eleanor tried to see the good in him, ignored the subtle insults and dismissals, believing that love could eventually change him. She spent her days devoted to Henry, managing the house, organizing dinners, and trying to win a smile from a man whose warmth was reserved for someone else. Meanwhile, Victoria, with her confident strides and dazzling smile, made no effort to hide her affection for Henry. Eleanor's world was a delicate balance of hope and pain, and yet she remained unaware of the full extent of the storm that loomed ahead. The fateful day came unexpectedly. Eleanor, dressed elegantly for a small family gathering, was caught off guard when Victoria stormed into their home. Her face twisted with fury. Words were exchanged, sharp and venomous, before Victoria, in a shocking display of aggression, slapped Eleanor across the face. The room seemed to freeze. Neighbors, staff, and even Henry's colleagues who happened to visit bore witness to the humiliation. Eleanor staggered, holding her cheek, her mind spinning with disbelief. Little did she know, this moment would be the tipping point that shattered her life and eventually led her to a path of strength, resilience, and unforeseen love. Eleanor woke the next morning to an eerie silence in the house, a silence that quickly turned into dread. Henry sat across from her, expression cold and unfeeling, while Victoria stood behind him, smirking like a predator satisfied with her hunt. "Eleanor," Henry began, his tone void of remorse, "I'm done. We are over. I want a divorce." Eleanor's heart dropped, as though someone had punched her squarely in the chest. All her sacrifices, every sleepless night spent keeping the household together, and every attempt to win his affection, now seemed worthless. She pleaded with him, voice trembling, tears brimming in her eyes. "Henry, please. We can fix this. I love you." But Henry's eyes were empty. Victoria's laughter echoed in the room, cruel and sharp, as she whispered, "You'll never amount to anything without him, Eleanor." As Eleanor gathered her few belongings, the reality of her life hit her like a storm. Henry mocked her relentlessly, throwing her belongings on the floor with disdain, while Victoria joined in, taunting her mercilessly. The home she once considered a sanctuary felt like a cage she had to escape. Friends and neighbors watched helplessly as the woman they knew for her gentle demeanor and resilience was treated as if she were nothing, stripped of dignity and respect. Eleanor's spirit, however bruised, refused to break entirely. Though homeless and humiliated, she carried within her a quiet determination to survive, even if it meant starting over from nothing. Church became her refuge, the only place where she could cry freely without judgment, praying for strength in the face of betrayal. Homeless and heartbroken, Eleanor found solace within the aged walls of a local church. She spent her days volunteering, cleaning, organizing, and serving anyone in need. Though her circumstances were dire, her spirit shone with resilience. The congregation quickly noticed her diligence and humility. Eleanor refused to allow bitterness to consume her. Instead, she found comfort in prayer and in the connections she made with others who were facing hardships of their own. Nights were cold and lonely, but she clung to faith, believing that life could still surprise her with kindness and opportunity. Her once fragile hope slowly transformed into quiet determination, a testament to her enduring strength. It was during one of these busy mornings that William Lancaster, a wealthy philanthropist known across London for his generosity, first noticed her. William had come to the church to organize a charitable initiative, and Eleanor's tireless dedication stood out among the volunteers. He watched her serve with humility and grace, completely unaware of her past struggles. Her soft voice, gentle smile, and unwavering patience left an impression on him, sparking curiosity and admiration. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of pain and hope, that stirred a protective feeling in him. William felt compelled to learn more about her, unaware that fate was about to intertwine their lives in ways neither could have anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and William found himself returning to church under various pretexts, just to see Eleanor. Each encounter revealed more of her kindness, intelligence, and unwavering spirit. William, despite his immense wealth and high social status, was drawn to her authenticity and resilience. Unlike the superficial people who surrounded him in his elite circles, Eleanor's sincerity was a breath of fresh air. He began speaking with her more often, sharing stories and laughter, unaware of the inner battles she continued to face. Eleanor, cautious yet intrigued, slowly allowed herself to trust him. Her heart, once broken and hardened by betrayal, began to stir with emotions she had long thought dormant. Yet Eleanor remained vigilant. Memories of Henry's cruelty and Victoria's malice haunted her, making her wary of anyone who showed interest. But William's respect for her boundaries and the genuine warmth he displayed challenged her skepticism. She felt herself opening up, sharing fragments of her past and dreams for the future. William, captivated by both her beauty and inner strength, decided that Eleanor was not only someone he admired, but someone he wanted to protect and cherish. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, laying the foundation for a secret love that would soon change Eleanor's life forever. As weeks turned into months, William could no longer ignore his growing affection. He proposed a secret marriage, wanted to shield Eleanor from the public eye until she was ready. Eleanor, hesitant but deeply moved, accepted, sensing that this was her chance at genuine love and security. The ceremony was intimate, conducted quietly in a private chapel, witnessed only by close friends and a few trusted staff. As William slid the ring onto Eleanor's finger, tears of joy mingled with memories of pain, marking the end of one chapter and the hopeful beginning of another. She had been rescued not by wealth alone, but by a man who saw her value and loved her for who she truly was. Despite the secrecy, Eleanor's new life remained a delicate balance. She had to continue visiting the church and volunteering, maintaining appearances, while gradually stepping into the role of a philanthropist's wife. William guided her through social events, introducing her to his world with care, ensuring she never felt overwhelmed. Eleanor's confidence grew, and though she sometimes doubted her worthiness, William's unwavering support reminded her that she deserved happiness. Little did she know that fate was preparing a dramatic confrontation with her past, a moment that would test her strength and redefine the meaning of justice. Meanwhile, Henry and Victoria remained oblivious to Eleanor's transformation. They assumed she was still struggling on the streets, clinging to the belief that she would never rise above the humiliation they had imposed on her. Henry continued his life arrogantly, boasting to friends about how he had left a woman worthless and helpless, while Victoria reveled in her perceived victory. Their arrogance blinded them to the quiet, unstoppable force Eleanor had become. Eleanor's grace, confidence, and resilience now formed an invisible shield, preparing her for the inevitable encounter that would finally make them confront their past cruelty. The opportunity came sooner than expected. William's company, where Henry unknowingly worked, announced a grand gala to celebrate new ventures and social contributions. Eleanor, accompanying William, stepped into the opulent venue, dressed elegantly, exuding poise and confidence. The moment Henry and Victoria laid eyes on her, shock and disbelief froze them. Their taunts and mockery had no power here. The woman they had scorned stood before them as the admired and powerful wife of the billionaire they both respected. Eleanor's silence, dignified and unwavering, began to unravel their arrogance, setting the stage for a confrontation they would never forget. Victoria, fueled by vanity and malice, could not contain herself. She approached Eleanor, sneering, "You'll always be nothing, a maid in our eyes." Henry chimed in, echoing the cruelty he had once wielded over her. Eleanor remained silent, her gaze steady, giving them no words to twist into power over her. The room seemed to close in on the two tormentors, as whispers spread about Eleanor's identity. Then, in a decisive moment, Eleanor reached forward and, with controlled strength, slapped Victoria across the face. The act was shocking in its audacity, yet it symbolized a reclaiming of her dignity. Silence fell over the room as gasps echoed. Before Henry could react, William arrived, his presence commanding attention. He stepped forward, eyes sharp with authority. "Enough," he said, his voice carrying both anger and calm. "Your bullying ends now. Victoria Morgan, you are to leave immediately, and Henry Caldwell, you are dismissed from my company. I've heard enough of your cruelty." The room trembled under his words. Victoria, humiliated and enraged, was escorted out, while Henry's face drained of color, realizing for the first time the consequences of his arrogance. Eleanor's courage and patience had brought justice, finally exposing the darkness that had plagued her past. The aftermath of the gala sent shockwaves through their social circles. Henry struggled to comprehend how the woman he had once belittled had risen to a position of power and respect. Victoria, meanwhile, faced public disgrace, her manipulations and arrogance exposed for all to see. Eleanor, however, stood above it all, calm and composed, a testament to resilience and virtue rewarded. She realized that true strength was not in revenge, but in maintaining dignity, allowing life to unfold in her favor. Friends and admirers now saw her not as a victim, but as a woman of remarkable courage and integrity, admired and celebrated for rising above cruelty. Eleanor's life with William flourished. She embraced philanthropic work alongside him, using her experiences to inspire and empower others facing adversity. Henry's regret was palpable, his arrogance replaced by shame, while Victoria faded from relevance. Eleanor, though scarred by the past, carried forward a sense of fulfillment and purpose. The journey from humiliation to triumph had transformed her, proving that resilience, faith, and integrity could overcome even the harshest betrayals. Eleanor's story became a testament to hope, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments, life has the power to surprise and redeem. Eleanor and William's bond grew stronger with each passing day. Their love, forged in the crucible of trials and triumph, became the foundation for a life filled with trust, respect, and shared purpose. Eleanor, once timid and uncertain, now walked with confidence, knowing that she was valued and cherished. William admired not only her beauty, but her intelligence, compassion, and unwavering strength. Together, they established initiatives to help women who had faced abuse and homelessness, giving Eleanor a renewed sense of purpose. Her past struggles became the source of her empathy, guiding her in helping others reclaim their lives. The world, once indifferent to Eleanor's pain, now celebrated her accomplishments. Invitations to high-profile events, philanthropic endeavors, and media attention came naturally, but Eleanor remained grounded, remembering the lessons of humility and perseverance she had learned in church and in the solitude of hardship. Henry and Victoria's attempts to re-enter her life were met with polite but firm rejection. Eleanor had moved beyond resentment, choosing instead to embrace the opportunities before her, thriving in a life she had once thought impossible. Her journey illustrated the triumph of integrity, faith, and courage over cruelty and manipulation. As Eleanor looked back on her journey, from betrayal and heartbreak to love and empowerment, she marveled at the twists of fate that had brought her here. Each painful memory, each insult and slap had shaped her into the woman she become, strong, compassionate, and unstoppable. William's unwavering support and love had given her the stability to flourish, but it was her own resilience that had carried her through the darkest moments. Eleanor knew that she had reclaimed not just her dignity, but her identity, her dreams, and her life. Together, Eleanor and William continued to inspire those around them. Their story, once private, became a symbol of hope for anyone facing adversity. Eleanor's experiences with Henry and Victoria were no longer sources of shame, but reminders of how far she had come. She embraced her role as a philanthropist, a wife, and a woman who had faced the world unflinchingly and emerged victorious. With faith, courage, and love as her allies, Eleanor Harris's journey was no longer defined by the cruelty of the past, but by the boundless possibilities of the future, a future she had seized with grace, determination, and unshakable strength. Eleanor and William's lives continued quietly at first, their love growing stronger behind a veil of secrecy. But the world could no longer ignore Eleanor's remarkable transformation. Invitations to media interviews, charity events, and business circles poured in, and Eleanor began to understand the influence she could wield. She had endured betrayal and cruelty, yet here she was, standing confidently among influential figures, a symbol of resilience and dignity. William watched her with pride, knowing that the woman beside him had not only survived but thrived, her spirit unbroken and luminous. Meanwhile, Henry and Victoria remained unaware of Eleanor's rising prominence. They continued their lives in arrogance, convinced that she had failed. But when a major charity gala was announced by William's company, they were shocked to find themselves face to face with the woman they had tormented. Eleanor entered gracefully, exuding poise and elegance, her presence commanding the room. Whispers spread like wildfire, the realization dawning on everyone. Eleanor Harris, once humiliated and discarded, was now the respected wife of one of the city's most powerful philanthropists. For Henry and Victoria, the shame was palpable, and their confidence began to crumble under the weight of truth. Victoria, driven by envy and outrage, could not resist approaching Eleanor. She began to insult and belittle her, echoing cruel words from the past, insisting Eleanor would always be insignificant. Henry attempted to intervene, thinking he could assert his dominance, but Eleanor remained composed. Her eyes, however, betrayed a simmering resolve. With precise timing, Eleanor reached forward and slapped Victoria, a move that silenced the room instantly. The act was both symbolic and literal, a reclaiming of dignity and an assertion that her tormentors no longer held power over her life. Gasps and murmurs filled the gala hall, while photographers captured every moment, making a defining scene of Eleanor's resurgence. William, witnessing the confrontation, intervened decisively. "Enough," he commanded, his voice authoritative and unwavering. Security was called, and Victoria was escorted out, humiliated and powerless. Henry, pale and shaken, realized that his arrogance had finally led to consequences he could no longer ignore. Eleanor, however, remained poised, her silence speaking volumes. She did not need to gloat. The truth of her strength and resilience had been made abundantly clear. That night, Eleanor understood that justice was not just about punishment, but about rising above cruelty with dignity, proving that she could never be broken again. In the aftermath, Henry grappled with regret. The arrogance and cruelty he had displayed toward Eleanor now returned him like a relentless echo. He attempted to contact her, seeking forgiveness, but Eleanor, aware of the dangers of allowing old wounds to dictate her life, ignored him. Each text, each phone call he sent, only strengthened his sense of failure. Victoria, too, struggled to restore her reputation, but the public had witnessed her humiliation and her malicious nature. Eleanor's transformation was undeniable, her grace and composure highlighting the stark contrast between victim and tormentor. Eleanor, meanwhile, focused on her life with William, her heart free from resentment. Though aware of the pain Henry and Victoria had caused, she refused to let anger control her actions. Her focus was on empowering herself and others, using her experiences as lessons and motivation. Each public appearance, each charity initiative, and every successful event served as proof of her resilience. Eleanor had moved from a life of humiliation and despair to one of influence and dignity, leaving behind the shadows of her past, while embracing a future filled with hope, love, and purpose. Eleanor became increasingly involved in William's philanthropic ventures. Together, they created programs for women affected by domestic abuse and homelessness, turning Eleanor's painful experiences into a source of empowerment for others. The couple's work gained widespread recognition, with media outlets praising Eleanor's courage, humility, and resilience. Eleanor's story became an inspiration for many who had faced cruelty and despair, showing that determination and integrity could overcome even the darkest circumstances. Her presence in the public sphere was not just about wealth or status, but about using influence responsibly, a lesson she had learned through suffering. William admired Eleanor's dedication, recognizing the unique empathy she brought to their shared ventures. While she had been once undervalued and disregarded, she now stood as a pillar of strength, guiding others with compassion and understanding. Eleanor's transformation from a victim of malice to a respected and influential figure reinforced the truth that life could be rewritten through courage, faith, and perseverance. Meanwhile, Henry and Victoria could only watch from the sidelines, realizing that the woman they once mocked had become untouchable in both spirit and social standing. Despite her success, Eleanor occasionally felt the lingering shadows of her past. Memories of Henry's cruelty and Victoria's insults surfaced unexpectedly, especially when she encountered reminders of her former life. The pain was sharp, yet Eleanor had learned to confront it with grace. She often reflected on the journey that brought her here, acknowledging that each hardship had been a catalyst for growth. Eleanor's resilience was now intertwined with wisdom, allowing her to navigate social, professional, and personal challenges with unmatched composure. Henry, consumed by envy, attempted to reassert himself in Eleanor's life. Yet, every attempt ended in failure, as Eleanor's confidence and position shielded her from his manipulations. Victoria, too, faced continued public embarrassment, with her previous arrogance and cruelty widely known. Eleanor, however, remained focused on the positive, choosing to channel her energy into meaningful work and nurturing her relationship with William. Her past, while influential, no longer dictated her present, allowing her to embrace a life defined by choice, empowerment, and love. William and Eleanor's bond continued to deepen. Each shared challenge, public appearance, and philanthropic endeavor reinforced their partnership. William admired Eleanor not only for her beauty, but for her intelligence, empathy, and unwavering moral compass. Eleanor, in turn, felt gratitude and love for a man who saw her worth and treated her with respect and care. Their relationship was built on trust, mutual admiration, and shared goals, creating a solid foundation that no external force could shake. Eleanor's confidence flourished, She became a public speaker and advocate for women's rights, using her story to inspire others. The power she now wielded was rooted in integrity, not vengeance. Henry and Victoria's attempt to undermine her were futile. Eleanor's dignity and influence had grown beyond their reach. Each success, each accolade, and each life she touched reinforced a belief that love, faith, and perseverance could transform suffering into triumph, illustrating that true empowerment arises not from revenge, but from courage and grace. Eleanor's work began receiving international recognition. Invitations to global forums, conferences, and media interviews position her as a respected figure in philanthropy and women's empowerment. Her past, once a source of shame, had become a testament to resilience and determination. Eleanor's story of survival, dignity, and eventual triumph captivated audiences worldwide. William stood proudly beside her, both as husband and partner in social impact. Sharing the joy of witnessing the woman he loved transform into an influential and inspiring figure. Henry and Victoria remained in stark contrast. Their reputation suffered under the weight of public scrutiny, their arrogance and cruelty exposed to all. Eleanor's influence and grace created an unshakable divide between her and her tormentors. Yet, Eleanor did not revel in her downfall. Instead, she used her position to advocate for justice and empowerment, ensuring that her past experiences contributed to positive change rather than bitterness. Her life now symbolized triumph over adversity, a story of courage, faith, and unwavering moral strength. Despite her success, Eleanor understood the importance of confronting the remnants of her past. In a private meeting, she allowed Henry to speak, hearing his apologies and witnessing his regret. While she listened, Eleanor remained composed, neither dismissing nor embracing his words fully. Her power lay not in revenge, but in the ability to forgive, to release the hold of past pain while remaining unwavering in her dignity. Henry left the meeting humbled, fully understanding the consequences of his past actions and the extraordinary transformation Eleanor had achieved. Victoria, too, was forced to face the reality of her actions. Public opinion had turned against her, and her attempts to regain social standing were futile. Eleanor, ever gracious, did not need to intervene. Her life itself was a statement. By maintaining her poise, integrity, and influence, she showed the world that the true measure of strength was not in retaliation, but in living a life of purpose, love, and resilience. Eleanor's past, once a source of torment, had become a foundation upon which she built her legacy. Eleanor's influence continued to grow as she expanded her charitable initiatives and mentoring programs for women. She used her experiences to guide those who face adversity, teaching resilience, self-respect, and empowerment. Eleanor had learned that true strength was not only surviving hardships, but also helping others rise above theirs. Her life became a living testament to the power of courage, determination, and unwavering faith in oneself, proving that even most painful experiences could be transformed into sources of inspiration. William remained her steadfast partner, supporting and sharing in every endeavor. Together, they became a force for positive change, inspiring countless individuals and transforming communities. Eleanor's journey from humiliation to triumph inspired not only those who knew her story, but also countless strangers who learned of her resilience. Henry and Victoria faded into irrelevance, while Eleanor's legacy continued to grow, defined by compassion, strength, and unwavering integrity. Eleanor stood on the balcony of her new home, looking out over the city she had helped transform through her philanthropy. Every trial, every moment of pain had led her to this point, a life filled with love, purpose, and fulfillment. William held her hand, their bond stronger than ever, both knowing that together they could face anything. Eleanor's past no longer haunted her. It shaped her into the woman she was destined to become, strong, compassionate, and unbreakable. Her journey from betrayal to triumph served as a beacon of hope for all who had experienced suffering and injustice. Eleanor Harris had reclaimed not only her dignity but her life, proving that resilience, faith, and unwavering determination could overcome even the darkest circumstances. As she looked ahead, Eleanor embraced a future filled with love, opportunity, and the power to inspire change, confident in the knowledge that she was finally living the life she deserved, a life defined by courage, integrity, and triumph. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.